Welcome back guys, it's 2021 but people are still new to Assassin's Creed Odyssey and they are still struggling to get the correct gear for all the crazy builds on my channel. So I think it was time for a new Blacksmith guide that incorporates all the errors that can possibly happen when you try to do the Blacksmith reload or gear farming in general. So some chapters in this video are just summarizing what we already know, but other chapters, especially regarding the errors that can happen when you do it, are completely new and a must watch for everyone who wants to dive into gear farming. So stay tuned and check it out because this will be the most complete guide for that topic. And if you now wonder why do I even need to use epic gear, because epic gear is more powerful in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. That has several reasons. The first one is that on the armor pieces, legendary gear has only 3 engravings versus epic gear which has 4 engravings. Of course legendary armor sets have a set bonus, but that set bonus is way weaker than 5 additional engravings and all the damage you could get from these engravings. And another very obvious reason is that the engravings placed on legendary gear are fixed and you cannot change them. So if you really want to get the most out of your gear with the correct and best engravings, then you should aim for custom epic gear which has, for example, Damege's swords. There's almost no legendary sword in the game that has Damege's swords already on it. So you always have to place it as your 4th engraving on all your legendary swords. And then you waste your opportunity to place a legendary engraving on that spot. But when you have a custom epic sword with Damege's swords, critical damage and warrior damage, you can place another legendary engraving as you want in your 4th slot. And that makes epic swords or epic weapons in general also the better option. And even if there's a small difference in the DPS value between legendary and epic weapons, that totally doesn't matter, because with the correct engravings with Damege's swords, damage with heavy blunts or damage with spears, you will get much more damage than from a legendary weapon that does not have that engraving. Just take a look at that perfect epic helmet here with warrior damage, 20% crit chance, 30% Damege's swords and 20% Damege's swords and daggers. That helmet has 50% Damege's swords in total, and there are simply no other legendary helmet that will ever have these engravings in the game. So epic gear is way better because it is completely randomized. You can find epic gear with any sort of engraving, with any skin, with any name. The names, the skins and the perks of the items are actually not connected. They are always shuffled together. So no matter if my helmet is named the Persian warrior helmet, you will also be able to find a hoplite helmet or a Spartan warrior helmet with the same engravings. So getting the correct engravings on your gear is actually the only thing that really matters. There are only very few restrictions which perks can actually occur on which item type, and you can check out that list when you open your engraving list in your inventory and check out the engraving list for every item type. Every engraving that is listed for that specific item type can be engraved and can also occur naturally on these item types. Another rule is that no engraving can occur twice on any item. So you cannot find a sword that has Damege's swords and then another Damege's swords on it, or a critical chance and then another critical chance. It's simply not possible that you find an item that has a double engraving. Only one exception is that you can engrave another primary damage when you fully upgraded your warrior damage, then you can place it as your 4th engraving on that item. At least as long as it is not on the 2nd or 3rd position already. It does not matter if you have unlocked any of these engravings, because random gear will always use all of them. Only when you use them on your own at the blacksmith, then you need to unlock them, of course. There are only very few exceptions for these rules, and these items are called unique items. Unique items have an engraving that is not possible to naturally occur during loot from blacksmith, and you also cannot engrave it normally on that item type. So for example, the Spartan javelin has 30% melee resistance, which is normally not possible to be on a melee weapon. Or the copycat sword, it has 10% crit chance, which is also not possible to occur on a melee weapon. You can find all the locations for all the unique items in the 2 unique items guides I've made for the channel. Any other epic item that is not part of these 2 videos can be found from looting or blacksmith as usual. But if you now think that looting your enemies is the way to go in this game, then you are way off course. Because there are 12 different item types in the game, 6 different melee weapon, a bow and 5 different armor pieces. So every item you loot from a random enemy can be one of these item types. So if you're looking for a perfect helmet, then only every 12th item will be a helmet. And there will be at least 200 possible combinations for that helmet which are actually different. So if you're really fast and you find an epic item every 15 seconds, which is not the case because you will likely not find an epic item every time, then you will still need 10 hours on average until you find that specific helmet you are looking for. But it could easily be the double amount of time because that is just the average value. So what you really have to do is go to the blacksmiths. Blacksmiths have the same rules than random loot. They will have random names, random pictures and random perks on every item they want to sell you. And they will have up to 2 different set of inventories with completely new items which you can always check every time you talk to them. So ideally you should use a double blacksmith locations where there are 2 blacksmiths very close to each other. Then simply go to the first blacksmith, make a manual save before you talk to him and then talk to the first blacksmith 2 times in a row, check for all his items in all his 2 inventories. If you can't find any good item, go to the other blacksmith, also check out his 2 inventories, and if you still can't find any good item, then simply reload your save. Since you only need to check around 200 helmets on average until you find your perfect epic helmet, it will take you no longer than 35 minutes to find every epic gear you want. That is up to 30 times faster than looting gear from random enemies. But sometimes they will always show you the same items and a lot of players are struggling to get different items shown at the blacksmith. When you meet a blacksmith that always shows you the same items every time you talk to him, then 2 things have happened. You have already talked to him 2 times before your last level up. In that case, you have already used up all his 2 inventories and then after you have talked to him, you saved your game. In order to reset these save locked inventories from your blacksmith, you have to understand that every time you talk to the blacksmith, they lose one of their random inventories. And every time you level up, you can actually increase the number of inventories they have. So when you have a blacksmith that shows you no different items anymore, you have to level up 2 times to give him 2 new inventories. So every time you level up, you will give all your blacksmith a new set of items. If you talk to them, you remove one, if you level up, you add one. It's that simple. And it also works with new blacksmiths. That means every blacksmith you just discover in a new region will also have 2 different inventories. You just have to make sure that you do not talk to him before you make your save. Then he has 2 different set of inventories. I've also tested that on Arcadia with the double blacksmith location and it worked perfectly. I got 2 different set of inventories for every blacksmith. If that for some reason doesn't work for you, then of course you only have to level up once or twice to add new inventories to your blacksmith. It's really very simple. Every blacksmith has their own inventory, so you can simply use up all the blacksmiths which are on the map before you even have to care about resetting and adding them new inventories. The best locations to do the blacksmith reload are actually the locations in Arcadia, where are 2 blacksmiths very close to each other. The second best one is in Arcadia in the city of Patrai. There are 2 blacksmiths but quite a walk between each other. And then the third best one is actually in Argos, the city of Argos. There are 2 blacksmiths but quite far away, so it may actually be better to use a single blacksmith instead of that double location. There are also 5 blacksmiths relatively close in Attica, 2 in Port of Piraeus and another 3 in Athens and south of Athens. But that's more suited when you really want to travel from one blacksmith to another, which is a method you can of course also do. So if you get really tired of the blacksmith reloading, you can just fast travel from one blacksmith to another. That's also very relaxing and it's not so repetitive. And it may actually shuffle the RNG a bit for you instead of just reloading the same save with the same values. But in general, there should be no difference to the simple reload. So I hope I answered all the pitfalls and the typical errors here in that video so that we have a full complete guide for the blacksmith reload now. Please don't forget to subscribe, leave me a like and see you next time.